You descend 9 miles. The temperature climbs 65 degrees. Your body doesn't adapt. It fails. You start at the rim in cool, pine-scented air, 55 degrees Fahrenheit, calm, deceptively harmless. Families take photos in hoodies, not realizing that every year, more than 250 hikers require medical rescue here. Most don't fall. They collapse. The moment you step downward, the betrayal begins. The trail doesn't just drop in elevation. It drops in climate zones. And within the first mile, the forest thins, the ground reddens, and the sun hits harder than your lungs expect. You've entered a thermal inversion zone, where cooler air stays trapped above and hotter air collect below, creating a heat trap that violates what mountain weather should feel like. The math is brutal. For every 1,000 feet you descend, the temperature rises 5.5 degrees. You're dropping nearly a vertical mile. That's a guaranteed 25 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit increase, even on normal days, and as much as 65 degrees during extremes when the rim starts cold and the canyon floor cooks to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Then something unnerving happens. Even with the sun overhead, it feels darker. The walls rise so high, up to 6,000 feet in some stretches, that the sky compresses into a strip of blue. Your peripheral vision fills with shadow. Your photoreceptors can't adjust fast enough to the light loss, creating a form of sensory disorientation. Hikers describe panic, claustrophobia, the instinct to turn back. Would you keep going if the sky shrank to a single ribbon above you? The canyon disorients you before it kills you. And in 2023, that disorientation turned fatal. A healthy 36-year-old woman drank more and more water as the heat intensified, over 6 liters. Her blood sodium plunged in a dangerous condition called hyponatremia. Her brain swelled. She collapsed. Rangers reached her, but too late. She didn't die from dehydration. She died from drinking too much water. Heat exhaustion follows the same timeline. Confusion within hours, collapse soon after. And if symptoms hit deep in the descent, you're hours from help, assuming you can still climb back out. And you haven't even reached the river yet. If you want to understand the Grand Canyon, you have to stop looking at space and start looking at time. This place isn't a landscape. It's a vertical biography of Earth. But the biography is written out of order. Missing chapters, torn pages, and billion-year gaps hiding in plain sight. At the top, you're standing on the recent chapters. The rim, the Kaibab Formation, is about 270 million years old. Below that, deeper Paleozoic layers reach back to 525 million, a world of ancient seas, reefs, and early forests. These rocks feel familiar, almost lively. But then the story breaks. Look halfway down. You're staring at one of geology's most jarring mysteries. The Great Unconformity, a missing chunk of Earth's past. Here, up to 1.2 billion years of rock is simply gone. In some spots, the gap is only 250 million years. In others, the full 1.2 billion. A silent jump in time, 200 times longer than the age of the dinosaurs. And just below that gap sits a world most visitors never hear about. The Grand Canyon Supergroup. Tilted, fractured layers formed between 1.25 billion and 740 million years ago. Their colors, purples, oranges, oxidized reds, belong to an Earth ruled entirely by bacteria. These rocks contain the canyon's oldest fossils, stromatolites, ancient cyanobacteria mats that breathed out oxygen into a planet still learning how to use it. Then you descend deeper and drop out of recognizable time altogether. You hit the Vishnu Basement Complex, the canyon's black foundation. Nearly 1.8 billion years old, some parts pushing 1.84 billion. This rock glittered with garnet crystals long before plants, animals, or fungi existed. Oxygen was in the air, but not enough for complex life to thrive. These stones were forged in an Earth without ecosystems, without predators, without even the idea of a spine. To feel this scale, compress Earth's entire 4.5 billion year history into a single 60-second video. The upper layers you started with last 10 seconds. The entire supergroup, seconds 12 through 20 to the Vishnu Basement, formed around second 20. And then almost nothing happens for the next 30 seconds. Human civilization appears in the final microsecond, a flash at the end. Hikers often describe a strange moment on the descent. The canyon becomes too quiet. Not spiritually quiet, geologically quiet. Down here, you're standing inside a world older than vocal cords, older than lungs, older than any creature that ever used sound to communicate. A silence from before communication existed. If you could step into one era for 1 minute, dinosaur world, the bacterial Earth of the supergroup, or the pre-animal world of the Vishnu complex, where would you go? Water shouldn't be able to carve a canyon this deep, unless the river cheats. The Colorado River is not big. It's not violent. And yet, somehow, it carved a trench so massive it can be seen from space. To understand how, you have to zoom in far closer than any satellite. You have to shrink down to the size of a grain of sand. Because the Colorado River doesn't carve the canyon with water. It carves it with ammo. Every second, that gentle river lifts sand, gravel, and boulders and turns them into blades. Blades that scrape, grind, and sandblast the canyon walls. This is abrasion. But the canyon's real weapon? It's invisible. A single drop of water falls, hits a rock, and forms a microscopic bubble. As that bubble collapses, it explodes with enough energy to pit solid stone. Millions of these micro-explosions, cavitation, chew into the cliffs like a drill that never turns off. Now scale that up to 5 million years. That's how a modest river becomes a continental sculptor. But here's the twist. The river isn't carving downward. The plateau is rising upward. While the Colorado River cuts a few millimeters per year, the Colorado Plateau lifts hundreds of meters. The earth is basically handing the river fresh rock, endlessly, and the river slices through it as fast as it arrives. It gets better. The water flowing today is only the latest version of the river. Ancient floods, wetter climates, and glacial melt pulses sent torrents roaring through this channel at volumes modern humans have never witnessed. Those ancient surges carried boulders the size of vans and hit the canyon walls with the force of wrecking balls. That's when the biggest cuts happened. Zoom back out. The canyon isn't just a scar. It's a film reel. Each cliff, terrace, and staircase a frame in slow motion. Erosion doesn't look fast. But pause for a moment. That river carries away 500,000 tons of sediment every day. Enough to fill a stadium. Gone. Every 24 hours. If you could pause time and watch the river carve just 1 millimeter of the canyon in real time, would you? A. Watch the water. B. Watch the rocks. C. Zoom in until you could see the bubbles explode. The Grand Canyon averages 1 to 2 helicopter rescues every summer day. 13 in a single week during May 2025. And almost all of them start the same way. Someone collapses in the heat, and suddenly the most advanced rescue teams in the world are fighting physics itself. If you collapse, a helicopter will launch, but the canyon has a way of rejecting rescue attempts. It weaponizes its own environment. 1. Density altitude. When the air stops working. To reach you, a helicopter has to drop nearly 4,800 feet from the cool rim into a cauldron of heat. But as the pilot descends, the air becomes hotter and, paradoxically, even thinner. This spike in density altitude means the engine loses power, rotor blades lose lift, and the controls become sluggish. Sometimes the helicopter arrives already at the edge of what the aircraft can physically do. Add a collapsed hiker, 150 to 200 pounds, plus the rescuer, plus medical gear, and the aircraft's margin for climbing out narrows to almost nothing. Thin air doesn't care how urgent your situation is. 2. The 2 rescue options, and their risks. When you're down there, the rescue crew has only 2 choices. Option 1. Short haul. Suspend a rescuer beneath the helicopter on a 200-foot rope. Lower them to you. Then extract both. NPS labels this among the highest risk operations. 1 gust of canyon wind, 1 rotor malfunction, 1 snag on the cliff wall, and everyone attached to that rope dies. On days with violent updrafts or unstable air, short haul isn't allowed. Option 2. Land miles away. If short haul is too risky, rangers attempt the safer, but slower, method. Land on a rare flat patch and approach on foot. If you're conscious, you watch the helicopter circle, then leave you behind. If you're not conscious, the minutes you thought you would transform into hours of organ damage. 3. When the canyon turns predatory. Rotor downwash kicks up blinding dust storms and destabilizes loose rock. Rangers frequently wave off rescues when conditions are too dangerous even for them. So here's the reality. Help is coming, but physics might prevent it from reaching you in time. What would you do? Lying there, fading, knowing the rescue is in the air, but the canyon might refuse to let it land. Everyone learns the same origin story. The Grand Canyon was carved slowly, patiently, grain by grain, over millions of years. But that story is only half the truth, because the canyon we see today wasn't shaped only by time. It was shaped by episodes of sudden, violent change, events so powerful they could erase entire landscapes in a single surge. Take the ancient lakes. Geologists agree that parts of northern Arizona once held ephemeral lakes or chains of shallow basins, including the debated Lake Beatahatchee. Some researchers argue these lakes drained catastrophically. Others think the events were smaller and repeated over long intervals. But even conservative models suggest that when these natural dams failed, the resulting floods were immense. Torrents capable of releasing millions to tens of millions of cubic meters of water per second. Not a river, a moving wall. A hydraulic assault strong enough to scour wide valleys and deliver the first raw cuts the modern Colorado would later inherit. But water wasn't the canyon's only sculptor. Fire took its turn. Over the last 600,000 to 1 million years, volcanoes along the canyon's western corridor erupted again and again, sending thick, black tongues of lava down side canyons and straight into the main channel. These weren't gentle flows, they were lava barricades. Some dams rose over 1,000 feet high, backing the Colorado River into enormous temporary lakes. And when those lava dams eventually collapsed, and every one of them did, the resulting outbursts were catastrophic, dwarfing anything humans have ever seen. Each failure was a reset. Walls torn down, debris swept out, new terraces carved, the canyon reshaped in hours, then left for the Colorado River to slowly refine for thousands of years afterward. This is the part the standard story leaves out. The Grand Canyon is not simply a monument to slow erosion, but to cycles of destruction, sudden floods, collapsing lava dams, explosive resets, and the relentless grinding that follows. When you stand at the rim, you're not looking at patience. You're looking at the aftermath of a planet that periodically loses its temper. It makes you wonder how much of our world looks stable only because we're living between catastrophes. Stand at the rim of the Grand Canyon long enough, and something shifts. The view stops being a landscape and becomes an encounter with time itself. A vertical journey of almost 6,000 feet. Nearly 2 billion years of exposed Earth's memory. A place carved by quiet erosion, sudden floods, collapsing lava dams, and forces still at work right now. Because this canyon isn't a finished monument. It's an active system, mid-sculpt, mid-sentence. And today, we can actually watch it happen. Hidden sensors along the rim measure microfractures. GPS receivers track cliffs drifting millimeters per year. LiDAR scans capture new rock falls within hours. Even the river's sediment load is monitored in real time. Every data point quietly confirms what the canyon has been telling us for ages. This story is still being written. That's the part our brains struggle with. Humans think in years. Civilizations think in centuries. But this canyon thinks in epochs, in transformations so slow we mistake them for stillness, until they break violently. Look long enough, and you start to feel the dissonance. A world that feels unchanging, yet is constantly rearranging itself. A landscape so vast it looks immortal, yet so fragile a single storm can peel open a new wall. It forces a confrontation with scale, of space, of time, of our place inside both. Because everything you know, every story your species has ever told, fits into the thinnest sliver of the canyon's timeline. A blink inside a blink. So let me ask you, when you stand before a landscape that measures time in billions, what does it make your own lifetime feel like? Let me know in the comments. And if you know someone who needs a reminder that Earth is still alive, still changing, share this with them.